The reason we're talking about indoor air quality is because the EPA ranked indoor air pollution one of the top 5 risks to public health back in the 1990s. We're still focused on it today because we still have problems in our homes and buildings that are causing health problems. Now, weatherization practices create energy efficient homes, but they may have unintended consequences. First of all, weatherization can reduce natural ventilation in a house. That's a good thing from the perspective of energy conservation. It's not so good if that practice increases carbon monoxide levels or increases moisture loading in the house. Weatherization practices also may create backdrafting of combustion appliances. This can create an increase in carbon monoxide levels. Carbon monoxide is a deadly gas that's colorless and odorless and can be in the house without our knowing it. So that may be an unintended consequence of weatherization that homeowners and home residents need to be concerned about. Also, caulking and sealing penetrations in the envelope can increase carbon dioxide and carbon monoxide levels. They can also decrease the ability of walls to dry. And we know when walls do not dry either to the inside or to the outside, we create the potential for moisture problems and mold growth. Also, some caulks and sealants and paints can off-gas volatile organic compounds into the home environment. We also know that weatherization practices can disturb existing insulation, and we also end up installing new installation. These both can increase airborne dust, increase fiberglass concentrations in the air, and even asbestos fiber concentrations. Now, some basic indoor air quality facts. Air pollutants are 2 to 5 times, sometimes up to 1,000 times higher inside than outside. And what this means is we're losing a lot of money in the United States due to illness and lost productivity costs, up to $60 billion annually. We also know that as a result of indoor air quality problems, childhood asthma is increasing. Most of these problems are caused by inadequate ventilation and control of moisture. And these are directly related to some of the health hazards we'll talk about in this module. Now, why have indoor air quality problems increased? For a number of reasons, but mostly because of inadequate ventilation and filtration. And we know our weatherization practices are intended to increase energy efficiency, decrease natural ventilation so that we don't lose heat. However, we need to make sure that a home ventilation system is balanced after our weatherization practices. We also know that indoor air quality problems can increase because of the use of synthetic building materials, finishings, and furnishes that go into the home. The use of chemically formulated personal care products and maintenance and cleaning products also add to the air contaminants in a home. And without proper ventilation, they're not removed from the home, and health effects could develop as a result of breathing in those contaminants. The indoor air quality in a home is governed by 4 things. 1, the building envelope and how air and moisture moves through that building envelope. The ventilation system, how much fresh air it provides, how much leakage there is. The occupants and their activities, what actually happens in the house, how much moisture is generated by their activities, and then also the outdoor environment. If we have homes that are in a polluted area or in an area with lots of traffic, there's more dust and dirt and carbon monoxide coming into the home. So whether or not an individual in a home experiences problems due to indoor air quality is based on the strength of the pollutants in the house, how much time they spend in the house, the ventilation of that house, and the individual sensitivity, because everybody experiences these contaminants differently. Now, when I talk about indoor air quality contaminants, I'm talking about volatile organic compounds that off-gas from paints, from cleaning materials, from maintenance supplies. We also mean carbon monoxide as a result of combustion, incomplete combustion, particulates, fibers like asbestos and fiberglass, radon, which is a naturally occurring radioactive material, allergens like pollen, dust mites, cat, dog allergens, cockroach allergens, and also microbial organisms like viruses and bacteria and fungi. And then also sewer gas if your waste lines are backing up. Now, there are two different things that can result from indoor air quality problems in a home. One is called sick building syndrome or sick home syndrome. And individuals that experience this feel irritation and dryness of their eyes and their nose and their throat. They might experience sneezing, a stuffy nose or a runny nose, fatigue. They might just not care much about anything, headaches, dizziness, nausea, irritability, and forgetfulness. So it's basically a set of symptoms that is really hard to diagnose. Now, the other thing that could occur as a result of indoor air quality contaminants in a home is a building-related illness, or an illness that's specifically related to something, some contaminant in the home that you're exposed to. So examples of that are asthma, asthma problems can be chemically induced, or they can be caused by mold as well. Humidifier fever, also respiratory allergies and carbon monoxide poisoning. These are all specific contaminants that may cause very specific illnesses that are much easier to diagnose. Over 50% of the indoor air quality problems result from inadequate ventilation. And this is important for us to understand. When we go in and weatherize houses, we're changing the ventilation dynamics of the house. The house is a system, and it's made up of many parts. When you make a change in one part, you change the way the overall system behaves. So the ventilation problems that we see attributable to indoor air quality concerns are that the ventilation just doesn't dilute the contaminants sufficiently, that the ventilation doesn't adequately remove contaminants from the environment, or that we're bringing in chemical pollutants from outdoors to the inside and breathing them. We could also be generating pollutants inside the ductwork, like mold could be growing inside the ductwork and be distributed throughout the home. Now, we know that mold is a result of moisture problems in the home. So there are many different areas in the home when they become wet could grow mold. Basically, mold loves to grow on ceiling tiles, insulation backing, the paper face backing of gypsum board. It grows on wood, but it also grows on dirt and pollen and other molds as well, especially if they're in your ventilation system. So here's a photograph of mold growing on gypsum board, mold growing on oriented strand board or a wood product. But that's not the only problem that we encounter with high levels of moisture in a home. We also see more dust mites in a home. The higher the humidity is in the home, the more comfortable the dust mites are, and they can grow in bedding and in other areas. Also, bacteria levels can increase in a home that has high moisture loading. We talked about carbon monoxide, mentioned carbon monoxide before, and carbon monoxide is produced as a result of incomplete combustion of fuel. And we see that in homes that have unvented cooking appliances, wood-burning fireplace or fireplace with a chimney that's blocked, but also backdrafting of appliances and fireplaces can be caused by the weatherization practices that change the nature of the ventilation in the home. Cleaning products, maintenance products, personal care products, all can off-gas volatile organic compounds. And if we store these kinds of supplies improperly in the home, if they're not capped tightly, or if the storage area isn't adequately ventilated, they too can add to the indoor air quality problem in the home. And of course, air fresheners and scented candles and perfumes and colognes can also increase the level of volatile organic compounds in a home. Radon. Radon is a naturally occurring gas, and we see it in some areas more than others. Some homes, especially those that have dirt crawl spaces or that are in a high radon area, can have high concentrations of radon in the home. And that can be impacted by weatherization practices, again, because it changes the nature of the ventilation. We don't have as much natural ventilation, so we need to make sure that we have ventilation that removes radon from a house if that is a problem. Pesticides also can be an indoor air quality problem. They're inherently toxic. They drift indoors from outside, or we use them in the home to control pests. And studies have shown that when you measure indoors in a house, up to 12 pesticides can be found inside homes and buildings. Particulates are also an indoor air quality contaminant that we need to be concerned about from the standpoint of causing health problems, and they can be in the form of nuisance dust or fiberglass fibers or asbestos fibers. And again, we need to have proper ventilation to remove these particulates from the air. Now, part of the weatherization procedure includes duct sealing. And the purpose of duct sealing is to prevent negative pressure within the home. And that's a good thing from the standpoint of energy conservation. It's a good thing from the standpoint of being able to control ventilation. When we perform that duct sealing, though, we need to make sure that we leave the house with a ventilation system that's balanced, so that as much fresh air is supplied and as much air is moving around the home to dilute contaminants as is being exhausted out of the home. The home can be under a slight positive pressure and still be a safe and healthy home. Now, one of the ways that we can provide ventilation to remove moisture from the home and to keep it balanced is to put exhaust fans in the kitchen and in the bathrooms and in the laundry. And there are specific formulas that indicate to us how many air changes per hour are required in the home to keep it well ventilated and to keep it balanced. Also, we need to take special precautions to control humidity in the home, because we know that high humidity levels can lead to the generation of mold and bacteria and can make it very comfortable for dust mites to live in the home. So the bottom line here of weatherization practices is to do no harm. Weatherization practices can impact the indoor air quality of a home. Be mindful that these practices need to leave the home with balanced ventilation and with good opportunities for the home to dry and moisture not to build up. And the bottom line is do no harm.